Unless you're using funny analogies like, this thing blows monkey dick.
Yeah, you're like, speaking of monkey dick. Yeah.
Oh, I don't... Well, okay. Are you speaking into a monkey dick? Is that the phone?
I mean, sometimes.
No, well... it depends on the club you're hanging at.
That's right.
Live, Prius, or die.
Die. Die. Die.
Live, Prius, or die. Yeah. Yeah, you're safe. Live.
Live, Prius, or Die, Episode 4. Today is December 6th. We're coming to you quasi-live. I'm your co-host, Mando. And I have with me, as usual, my white shadow.
Have you seen Turbo?
No.
Oh, you've never seen Turbo?
No.
Oh, the one big fat slug, his name, the White Shadow.
Are you serious?
Yes, so you totally caught me off guard with that, but thank you. Yeah, this is Will on the line, also known as Villain222 on the interwebs, for all you that better recognize.
Today, we're going to talk about some of our favorite phones. We're going to talk about phones we currently have. You know, why some of these phones are good and why some of them should have been used as bricks a long time ago.
Yeah, there's been a few of those guys.
My first carrier was Sprint. And that was kind of a ripoff because I got a flip phone, and that flip phone was actually pretty cool. It had a little LCD screen in the back. I can't remember the model. It was like a really generic, like silver flip phone with their little logo on it. And the bad thing about that was that my credit was so bad that I actually had to drop like $275 for them to activate my phone.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth from the get-go. Like it wasn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is pre-smartphone era, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's just nuts.
I think what was available were Blackberries and flip phones at the time.
You know, I've never had a BlackBerry.
Me either.
The smartphone era, when I really started out. Well, I'll go back to my first phone in a minute, but my first smartphones were Windows mobile phone, and I think I had, what the hell was it? It was like it wasn't even, no, I take that back. I had a smart device that was an HP brand, some kind of Windows mobile PDA.
How long ago? Oh, when PDAs were around?
Oh yeah. That was my first step toward a smartphone. And then there was also the TapWave. I forgot about that thing. That was another PDA. Kind of before PDAs and phones were starting to come together. Palm really, I think, set the stage for that a lot. The TapWave was actually based on the Palm OS, but was actually geared to be a game system, and it was actually really well built. It just, I got it pretty cheap. It was like $150. I mean, and when it originally came out, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of almost $400.
Oh wow!
And I just wanted a PDA at that time. This was kind of pre, Wi-Fi everywhere. I mean, I had it at home definitely at that point, but it just wasn't out there enough to really be worthwhile. In fact, phones kind of went through an era where, Wi-Fi was in them, and then that started to go away until the iPhone. Wi-Fi they were dropping Wi-Fi out of phones for a while. I didn't really understand it. I think they were just trying to really, really gear you into their mobile network and using the bandwidth that they were having, even though it was unlimited at that time, or, well, unlimited if you paid for it.
Right.
And then when iPhone came back out, Apple was smart enough to understand that, well, Wi-Fi is growing and growing and faster, right? So, I mean, you can get so much more out of a computing device by jumping into Wi-Fi. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit of myself, but to jump back to my first phone, I had a Primeco phone. You remember Primeco? Had the little pink little alien dude?
Yeah, they had those cool phones that you could flip it, to open it, you hit this button and the mouthpiece would drop down and they lit up.
I did not Yeah, I did not have anything like that. I had like probably one of the original Primeco phones. This thing, you remember the '80s brick phone.
Yeah, it was like an analog phone. I remember they were pushing those.
This wasn't a whole hell of a lot smaller.
Right.
And I mean, it was all black, but probably the coolest feature they had on it was, it was of course the green LCD screen that just sucked. But on the left side, it had a sliding dial that you would navigate through all the menus. So it would, you go up and down with your thumb to navigate the menu and click in to select.
Oh wow!
It was actually, actually pretty cool, pretty fast. For what you were doing on a phone then. It's not like you were texting or anything even then. So I a nice big honking antenna you'd pull up. So that was my first entry into the phone arena, and it wasn't bad. It was a pretty decent phone, and I mean for the time, we seemed to get signal pretty well anywhere.
Well, and they weren't a bad carrier either. Like I said, when I got this Sprint phone, like it wasn't very good. I could text on it, but you had the numerical keypad versus a QWERTY keypad, right? And that made things cumbersome. That QWERTY keypads were just kind of getting popular at the time. Phones are switching over to that. But what's important out of all of this that we just talked about, did your phone have Snake on it as a game?
Well, definitely not my first phones. I mean, when I finally got to a color screen phone, which I'm trying to even think I don't even know what that was, to be honest. I think it was some little cheapy flip phone that I think it was through Sprint, actually.
Yeah, that's what I got. I had a color phone or a color screen on my Sprint phone. That flip phone that I had, I could do a lot of cool stuff on there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's my first Sprint phone, but did I have Snake? I don't know. If I did, I was probably like, all right, this sucks. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean that's just to pass the time. The second phone I got wasn't a flip phone. It was actually it was a solid body phone with the
bar
pad
phone
on the front, but you could lock the keypad so you wouldn't actually push buttons or dial somebody while it was in your pocket. But that one also had Snake on it. That was like a make or break, man. If I was just sitting around, that's my go-to game. I'm like, I'm not gonna get eaten. I'm not gonna eat myself. This is great. It was pretty fun. That second phone that I got was okay. I mean, there's nothing fancy about it. The keys were really small, and my thumbs are huge, so you couldn't flip it to landscape view. The text, you always had to keep it in portrait, and the way I have to hold small phones in my hand, like my thumbs are bumping into each other, and it wasn't good. I kind of like where phones have moved on to now. So what was the first smartphone that you had? Now, I don't know with you. I think this will be a different subject because I remember you had those Palm Pixies. Did you have a Palm Pixie or Palm Pre?
No. I did have the Palm Pre.
Okay.
But before that, it was an HTC phone, actually. It was, I don't remember what the heck it was. It was like a P6. I don't remember the exact. And I don't even think it was branded as HTC. I didn't find out till later that it was officially an HTC phone. But it was a Windows mobile phone that had a slide-out QWERTY keyboard. And, Windows Mobile, it was just like, dealing with a Windows desktop,
Yeah.
You have your file manager, things were on the C drive, and, it was, easy to understand and work with and play around with. I had that phone for a little while, and then I got a hold of a Palm P600, I think it was, which was Palm OS. It had like a 1.3 megapixel phone, and that was like, oh, this is the shit right here, You do videos and take, at the time, what seemed like great pictures. And do you remember when the phones, and I remember I was talking to my wife not that long ago about this, remember when phones didn't have selfie cameras and they had that little stupid mirror on the back of them?
Yeah.
The little circle mirror that, you could see your warped head in just enough probably to take one selfie picture if you really wanted to.
Right. And that was if you angled your head the right way and...
Right. Yeah, held perfectly still for 5 minutes, yeah.
Someone's looking at you, what are you doing at your desk? Shut up!
Yeah, right. Get to work, fool. So I had that phone. And, I mean, that was nice because if we don't have kind of a smaller screen, it only has like it's like a 2x2 screen.
Mm-hmm.
You had a full QWERTY keyboard, and it had like a stylus, to manipulate the desktop, or not the desktop, but the OS. And yeah, Palm was around a lot, and they had a lot going for them with Palm OS. It wasn't like pretty at all. It was just like, hey, here's some menus. It was like playing around with like Windows 3.1, really. It was just some, it just did what it had to do, and it just didn't look pretty about doing it.
Right, and it was, still for the tech in that phone to run that OS it was still kind of advanced, but still behind what was out there as far as PCs go.
And then after that, I kind of went into like another middle ground where I still had my Palm's phone, but then I had an iPod Touch, because at that point the iPhone came out, and so that was all the rage, and the iPod Touch emulated that, of course.
Right.
It was the exact same interface. So I got one to play around with, and it was kind of my go-to toy to just sit on the couch, surf the web,
Right, yeah.
play Angry Birds, and
Fun stuff.
I still have my Palm phone that I was still pretty much using primarily just as a phone. Not so much for the smart end of it anymore. Although I did use notifications a lot, even though after a while I just started ignoring most of them. And so again, I was in a middle ground there where I had two devices, one to do cool shit and one to do the shit I had to do. And then after that, I went into the Palm Pre.
Okay.
And I kind of I bought it kind of on the down low for, because my wife at that time, our money was tighter then. And, to slather down a couple $100 on a phone just wasn't really,
Yeah,
a good discussion around here.
Right.
So, I bought it, kind of played around with it for a while, and kind of kept it on the down low that I had this different phone, because not only did I get the different phone, but I had to have a different data plan.
Yeah,
which was more
you had to
expensive
upgrade your
too.
data package. That's how they got their money.
Right. So, that thing, to this day, I would say that was probably, granted, phones could do so much more nowadays, but if there was ever a phone that, I probably had the biggest tech boner for, that was probably it. Because it was a piece of art, that thing. In fact, I have it sitting like 2 feet away from me right now. My kids will play with it now as like a camera sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how many people really knew what the Palm Pre was all about, but it did everything the iPhone could do, but it just did like multitasking, and just kind of really walked into that whole gesture-based operating system that we kind of are seeing a lot. Well, we don't kind of see, but we see a lot more of now. So it was kind of ahead of the curve on that, in that sense. It displayed web pages just like the iPhone did. In fact, I think it used a WebKit browser, which is what the original iPhone had.
Yeah, I was going to say they didn't change that too much. At the time of those new iPhones, it was almost the same way they connected to the web. I remember that.
Right. And so, like, every app in the Palm Pre was considered a card. Like, you'd hit this little center button in the bottom, which also had a little gesture area too. Where you slide your thumb across it, it would go back, like if you're in a browser. But if you hit the button, like whatever program we're doing, like say your camera, would zoom back, and it would just look like a card, from a deck of cards. And if you had a bunch of apps open, you just slide through your cards, and if you want to get rid of one, you just grab it with your thumb and flicked up, and it went bye-bye.
And it didn't have it was like a little sensor that was actually embedded in the phone itself, right? You just swipe your thumb across that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that phone itself, side by side, when I saw that with the next to the Palm Pixie, Curve, I think was the other one.
Mm.
And they had that. It was that.
No, the Curve was a BlackBerry. Curve was a BlackBerry.
Was that a BlackBerry?
Yeah, the Curve was a BlackBerry.
There was one that saw that it was like it was called. They were calling it. It was right next to the Palm Pixie at the AT&T store. This was years ago.
It might have been the Veer or something like that.
Okay, and it was. I mean,
the Veer. Well, actually, the Veer might be the really tiny one. They made like this weird little one. Like it was even smaller than the Palm Pre. And the Palm Pre is
it was tiny.
not very big.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a nice slide-out keyboard.
Yeah.
Which actually works pretty well. But
now that wasn't that idea with the sliding keyboards is pretty. I mean, it should have caught on more than what it did. I think there were a lot of phones out there that had keyboards, like those slide-out keyboards. I had I forget the name of it now.
A lot of them slide out to the bottom, though. You know, like on the side, so you're doing it from the landscape view.
Yeah, and that's what this one.
And this one was portrait.
This one did. It slid out from the bottom, but the weird thing about this phone, it was like a hybrid. It was in between. It wasn't really a smartphone, but it wasn't really like just a standard digital phone with a keyboard. You can
wait a minute. Are you talking like a Sidekick?
No, it was kind of like a Sidekick, but the Sidekick had better functionality for some of the apps that they had. This one was I cannot remember the name of it now, and it was a really awesome phone. Like I could expand the internal memory card. I think the internal memory you could expand it to like 8 gig. So I did that. You know, those 8 gig cards were kind of cheap, and it wasn't SD. They were actually micro SD. And it was blue, and it had this stupid gimmick where it could play all your MP3s and digital music. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But you had to put them on the SD card in a folder, and you had to label that folder a specific name so that the phone would recognize that, hey, there's music in here. But what you could do is you could shake the phone, and it would change the track. And I was like, this is dumb. Why can't you just hit the next button? Why do you have to shake your phone? So, and you know what? I literally had to violently shake my phone. So I would be working, and I would try to get to the next track real quick. So I'm sitting there like moving my hand like crazy, like next to my ear, up in front of my face. People are like, "What are you doing?" Like, I look like a jackass trying to shake something out of my phone. Not to mention that the touchscreen.
I look like you're masturbating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and each there was like a number of shakes that you could do certain things. Like you shook it twice and it's supposed to skip a track. You shook it once and it's supposed to pause it. And I'm like, that's just too much work for you to be listening to music. Like I just want to go.
Yeah, and how many times does it not work? And then you try to shake it, and then you jump ahead too far.
Oh man, it was the worst phone I had ever owned, except for that slide-out keyboard. That was its saving grace. The tactile feedback on that phone was garbage. I literally would have to like swipe 3 times to get to the next screen. To drag stuff. It was bad. I mean, it was bad.
Was it actually resistive touch then? Or was it capacitive? Capacitive is like where you can only use your finger.
Yeah, it was. It may have just been capacitive, but I mean, even still, like to move. Well, no, because you could like you were supposed to slide it like how you would with the smartphones, and this was supposed to compete with. This was supposed to be like an in between for people who couldn't afford smartphones. This is supposed to be like the cheaper alternative, and it was a cheap knockoff, but it was like I said, it was just garbage. I hated that phone so much, but I loved. That slide out keyboard was just on point. It would only come out you could only use it in landscape, and it was a QWERTY keyboard, and the keys were big enough so I wouldn't bump into my thumbs. As a matter of fact, I used to update Facebook through text message from that phone because the keyboard just it made sense. Now fast forward to today, the new BlackBerry that's out,
the Pro,
it has a similar feature, except it still has that stupid vertical portrait keyboard you can slide up.
You can always get the passbook. Not talking about your bank account.
Yeah. No, that's not what it's named. It's usually called, I cry when I look inside of it.
Yeah, it's called bottom pit.
Yeah, auto negative. But but no, this keyboard on this new BlackBerry is, I don't get it. I demoed it at the store. It's great to have a whole phone dedicated to a screen. There's not really a border around it, but in order to text, you slide up and you're back to that portrait keyboard. Not only that, supposed to be intuitive, and you're supposed to be able to, hey, this keyboard's awesome. Hey, I can swipe on the keys, and it works just like
Right.
a touchscreen keyboard. Yeah.
Right. Like a trackpad.
Yeah,
right?
but it doesn't feel natural to me. And I'm not knocking, this phone. I love the idea of this phone a lot, but it just didn't feel right to try to text that way. There was something very unnatural about doing that. Not only that, not all the keys that you would use are present, so you'd have to hold stop on certain keys, and then it would give you the option for the other ones. They basically took a keyboard and compacted it to make it versatile for texting, and then everything's compacted into this QWERTY keyboard that you can physically touch, but it has other hidden items behind it, just like you would with like an Android keyboard. Like you can hold down the ABC button, and there's other things, options there.
No pop-up.
Yeah,
Right.
there's pop-up windows, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't seem right. I'd have to say that out of all the phones that I have owned right now, HTC One A9 is actually the best. I've only had HTC phones though.
I actually had an HTC Evo 3, or it was what do they call it? The 4GV. It was actually Virgin Mobile's version, but it was essentially the Evo 3D. Actually, that I did like that phone a lot.
That's a popular phone.
Yeah, well, I don't think the 3D version was as popular as the original Evo phone. But I just wanted the 3D because, come on, it's 3D. It's fucking cool.
Yeah. That was the gimmick for that one, though.
Right. And at the time, 3D TVs were supposed to be picking up, and that didn't go nowhere. So you thought that was going to be a thing you might want down the road, so kind of jumped into that ship a little early, I guess. But it's still kind of cool. I mean, you can look at videos and take videos in 3D, so it's got some kind of coolness about it still. I mean, right now everybody's going VR, so pretty soon 3D might kind of make a resurgence.
Yeah, I don't know if they would do that on phones 3D. Though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just seems logical to me that if you're going to start doing 360-degree camera, video, why not make it 3D as well?
Yeah, and you can do that. We are getting to the point where these phones are becoming like you said, microcomputers, basically. So, yeah, possibly. That's a lot of tech, though. To put in, that's a lot of hardware to put into a phone, though, to make sure that it's 3D, and that's.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of these phones, is that these phone technology it's driving a lot of things anymore. Yeah, we never did get into your whole whiskey bar thing either.
No, that was. I should just be careful. Well, the thing about that was we went, and so a friend of mine, Justin, he was like, yeah, this place is supposed to be really awesome. They distilled gin and vodka and rum and whiskey, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he was like, yeah, the last time I was there, they ran out of their whiskey, and I was like, all right. So, I'm
the whiskey bar that's not a whiskey bar.
Right, like they ran out, and I'm just like, how does that happen?
It's like Burger King without Whoppers.
Ooh.
You remember that shit?
Oh, I remember that, yeah. Ooh. Made some people angry there. Like, I'm going to come inside and kill you angry.
Right.
So we
did a whole bit with Mike on that, remember?
About the Whoppers? No.
Oh yeah, maybe you weren't there, but me, Pete, and Mike did a whole skit, and the skit was basically the concept every time this dude wanted to go somewhere, they didn't have the thing that they were probably most known to have. Burger King Whoppers was one of them.
Oh yeah,
so
that. I just heard that. Yeah. I mixed that down for you guys and sent it back to you. Do you not have that disc?
I don't think so. I remember you dug it up last time, but
yeah,
you should send me a copy.
I totally. There we go.
There's some great liners in there.
Oh yeah, I was cracking up, man. It was just, I love how because there were 4 or 5 different skits, and so what I did was I broke it up on the CD so that you kind of follow this guy's story, right? Mm-hmm. And then the distorted intercom was the best. Where he was like, "What?" You're like, "What? I'm coming inside." You come inside. He was like, I was like, "What?"
It wasn't the intercom the whole time. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and some of our best classic liners, like "You gross guy," come out of that, and yeah, they got some gook food. Mike was just
gonna go over well now.
yeah. Mike really he went off the chain on some of it.
That's funny stuff, though.
So back to the whiskey bar that had no whiskey.
Well, so we get out. Okay, so there's 4 of us. There's me, my buddy Zach, and Justin, who's like a mutual friend now, but I met Justin through Zach, and then Adam. So Adam goes out. He meets us there, and he was like, "Hey," he's texting me. He's like, "Hey, this place is really cool. You know, should we check it out?" So we get in there, and we're looking at the menu. Now the menu is like, I don't know, like they're like real narrow columns of like business card paper,
Like a wine list.
kind of, yeah, but they're smaller than that. Right? They're more narrow. They're just as long, but they're just really narrow. And it lists everything that's there. So you get the name of the drink, the price of the drink, what's in the drink, and then like there's other options below that. So when we get there, Adam's got Christmas Vacation, which I didn't know it was in there, but that shit was tasty. It was like a whiskey sour with a sweeter twist to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But they distill all this shit there. So Justin's like slapping his hands together and wringing them together like I'm getting some whiskey. So our server comes up to us and she was like, "Hi guys, I'm gonna give you, what we have on special today, and this is only my second day here, so I haven't had a lot of drinks here." And she's just going on. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." And Justin just pipes in, "Well, whatever you have, I want a whiskey and something." She was like, "Well, we don't have any whiskey." And he was like, "What do you mean you don't have any whiskey?" He's like, "Every time I come here, you guys are out." And she's like, "Yeah, we're not going to have any until probably summer." And I was like, "What? Like, how long does it take?" And so she kind of went through that, and I was like, "Wow, man, like we got to be on top of it next time." But I ended up having a Virgie gin and tonic, which is really good, and then the Dude, which was their vodka, some almond milk, and basically like a White Russian.
Right.
Pretty tasty. Yeah, I was lit. I'm not even gonna lie. I only had like 2 cookies and a bowl of cereal to eat before I went out. It was a good night.
Well, liquor than beer, you're in the clear, right?
Oh yeah, I wasn't sick. I just was feeling really good. And then apparently someone ended up getting a 7x7 last night, and I just can't believe that burger.
Yeah, that thing was pretty awesome looking.
Oh.
You showed me the picture.
Man, that was a Big Ben. That was at a restaurant called the Red Lion Grog. It was really good, but the 7x7 is at Steak and Shake. Have you not heard of this thing?
No.
It's 7 patties of meat, 7 pieces of cheese.
God. Jesus. Oh my God, dude.
It's tasty as fuck, apparently. So
you should be lucky you survived the night.
Yeah, I didn't eat that. The Big Ben was enough.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm gonna try it. It's got to be a food challenge list.
Nice. It sounds like you better take some aspirin to clear that heart attack you're gonna have.
Yeah. Cough a lot. Take this aspirin. Don't fall asleep.
Right. Sounds like a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna be a nightmare when you wake up and you realize you got a shit.
Right. You got a half-eaten 7-layer burger in your hand.
Yep. What's happening? Why do I feel so greasy?
You gotta scrub with Dawn afterwards.
Well, hell yeah.
That's just the lube you've been using lately.
Oh yeah, his and hers, man. Did you hear about those people in Walmart?
No.
They were living in the Walmart attic at some city.
Oh, sweet.
But they just weren't living there. They were cooking meth there too.
Oh, well, of course.
And it gets better. Not only were they living and cooking meth there.
They're Walmart employees. Of course they're doing meth.
Oh no, they were homeless people. But they took a 42-inch TV upstairs into the attic where they were, and then got cable installed on Walmart's dime. And it's 2 years, Will. 2 fucking years.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. They got caught because they jacked some of that Trojan his and hers pleasure lubricants.
How the hell did they catch them?
That's how they caught them, because they found these boxes on the stairs to where the attic is, and they walked upstairs. Finally, someone decided to go up there and say, "Oh, hey, what's this doing down here?" and go snoop around. Look it up, dude. Like, their mugshots are fucked up.
Oh, I gotta check this out. This sounds awesome. Hey, anybody getting one over on Walmart, they get an A+ in my book.
Hey, if you like what you heard, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Live Prius or Die. Leave a comment, give us a thumbs up. Thanks again for listening.